Ah shit, here we go again, but this time for our fucked up day number 10, we're gonna be taking a look at The Curse of Kazuo Umezu, which is an anime that is made by, well, Kazuo Umezu himself. Yeah, he decided to put his own name in the title for whatever reason. But then again, one of my favorite PS1 games being Tecmo's Deception has the company name in the name itself, so hey, this could be a good thing. But all jokes aside though, yeah, Kazuo Umezu has actually done a lot of different things. He does horror, he does science fiction, and even comedy. And a lot of his early manga work has actually been quite influential. I mean, hell, there was even a movie about him called Mother, released in 2014. And by the way, apparently there's like a shit ton of movies called Mother that was released in 2014, so yeah, it might be a little confusing to find. But yeah, whenever it comes to manga work though, he is quite well respected. So let's see what type of fucked up shit he cooked up for this horror film. So yes, it is a horror film, but it actually has two different stories into one. And I can tell you that summing up the basis of these stories will not take long at all, so here it goes. So for the first story, it's about a high schooler named Masami who has some really fucked up nightmares ever since a transfer student has came in, and she thinks that the new transfer student is the reason behind it all. Not even joking, it really is that simple. And as for the second story, yeah, it's actually even simpler. So two chicks get out of a movie theater, and what's hilarious to me is that the movie that they were watching is actually the same title as this movie. Man, what kind of weird paradox is this? So they want to experience more things that are scary, so they end up going to a house on the edge of town that happens to be haunted, and then as soon as they go in, a bunch of fucked up stuff happens. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, it really is that simple. It's even more simple than a Simple Series game. But I do find that Haunted Mansion aspect, though, actually does kind of remind me a little bit of the Japanese horror film called House, the one that came out in the 70s that was like half live action, half creepy, weird animated. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that for now. So now let's get moving on to the other things like the animation. Damn, we're talking about the animation already? So the animation in this one is very, very interesting. So the art style in this one has that underground look very similar to the other fucked up anime film I reviewed before called Midori. But unlike that film though, I'm not sure if this was all done by one person and took them like 6 years to make on their own or some crazy shit like that, but I do know for a fact that this is also a very low budget film, but I think they actually used the budget quite well. So as I said, the art style, I actually really like it. It's really cool, unique, and very creepy and weird as shit. I'd even go as far to say that the monster designs in here are just as creepy as anything that Shinji Mikami has ever done. The backgrounds look great, very dark and gritty as you would expect, and as for the blood and the gore in this one, it doesn't have like a crazy amount like some of these other ones I've been taking a look at like Genocyber and Violent Jack and all that. But I do think that the attention to detail of it did look good for this type of anime. I wouldn't say it's as graphically detailed as Midori's though, but it looks good for this style. But I'd probably say the most gruesome part would probably have to be the ending of it all, but I won't get too much into that. But yeah, that's probably the most shocking that it gets in terms of like death scenes, but other than that though, it's nothing that I haven't seen already. But as for the animation flow itself though, yeah, the animation flow is pretty bad, I'm not gonna lie, it kinda is, but for some strange reason though, I think they actually kinda made it work with this anime. Okay, so if this animation flow was being used for like an action anime or something, then yeah, it would look pretty bad and it would be pretty shitty, but I feel like for what they did work with for here, I think it kind of worked. I find like the way how everything moves in it, it kind of makes it a little extra creepy if you ask me. But then again, when I was a kid, I used to think that a lot of those stop-motion films, you know, stuff like the original King Kong and the Harryhausen films like Clash of the Titans, I used to think that shit was pretty creepy as a kid, just for like the way how it moved, like it was like kind of slow but kind of fast too. I don't know, for some reason I always thought it was creepy, and for this film, it kind of reminded me of that a little bit in some aspects, so because of that, I do appreciate what they tried to do here, for that they knew their limited budget and they made it work well for what they had to work with. But overall, I definitely do think that for low budget standards, it's pretty great and does have some really weird, creepy moments. And as for the music is not too bad. I mean, it's good for what it is. Like, it has some good atmospheric stuff, which is fitting, and also does have some weird synthesizer sounds, which is kind of weird, but, you know, then again, this anime is pretty fucking weird, so, I mean, hey, it works for me. But yeah, nothing very memorable, but good for what it is. I mean, it does the job. So now, as for the voice acting, I can't really say much because this one never got a dub and I can't really judge the quality. Yeah, you probably haven't heard that in a while. So I can't tell you if the voice acting is good or bad, but one thing I did find to be pretty amusing is that there are two voice actors in here that I did recognize from other works. For an example, Takehito Koyasu is in here, that happens to be the voice of Dio from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, so that's pretty funny. And the other one that I thought was pretty amusing as well was Naoko Matsui, that happens to be the voice of Rem from Dream Hunter Rem, so yeah, that's pretty crazy. So it did seem like that they did get some notable roles in here, although I'm not sure if they were like well known at the time because this was made in 1990s, so I don't know if this was like their more earlier stuff, but still pretty interesting though. So now, as my overall thoughts on this fucked up anime is that I actually didn't think it was bad. In fact, I'd say it was actually quite decent. Yeah, that might surprise some of you, considering that I said that the plot is like so basic and shit. And well, yeah, the plot in this anime is definitely the most basic shit you can get, and it is kinda generic, but the thing that makes it is that I find it's the direction I think makes it work. Because this is not an anime that's trying to like be like the best that there ever was. It's not trying to be the next Evangelion or some shit. Nah, instead this is just some random ass horror movie that's just does exactly what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to be really weird, creepy, and fucked up. So it's a very non-pretentious film. So because of that, I actually do understand what they were going for here, is that they weren't trying to like make like super memorable characters, they weren't trying to make like unlikable pieces of shit characters likable because they said so. So yeah, it's a more mindless, fun, weird type of horror movie. Not the kind of thing that you would expect to have a deep plot, but the thing that you watch just for its weirdness and be entertained and intrigued by it, and I definitely was. Like I said earlier, in many ways, it does kind of remind me of the Japanese horror film House, which by the way, I also did like too, for the same reasons. So obviously, if you're gonna watch this film expecting to have like a crazy mind-blowing plot, then yeah, you're gonna be pretty disappointed and you're not gonna like it. But if you want something that is more kinda like a B-movie, but like not a cheesy weird B-movie, more like a B-movie that's like really creepy and well made, I'd say it's worth a watch. So yeah, I bet you weren't expecting me to praise this one. Well, to be fair though, it's not a great film by any means. Like I said, it's a decent film. Not a great film, but decent enough that I can say that it was pretty entertaining. But as for a question that some of you that have watched my last year's horror feature are wondering, is this movie more fucked up than Midori? Personally, nah, I don't think it is. I mean, yeah, it definitely does have some shock value in here, mostly towards the end, and of course the creepy weird monster designs are definitely very high up there on the nightmare fuel level. But like I said, it was more mindless fun, and it definitely was not overly depressing, and also didn't make me feel like I woke up with a nasty hangover. So while it is a pretty fucked up film, I personally wouldn't say it's as fucked up as that. I mean, that still is the top on my list of ones that I've seen so far. But with all comparisons aside though, I really don't think this is a bad film at all. In fact, I would even say it is kind of underrated. But I still don't think it would be a good idea if you showed this to your normie friends though that don't watch anime. They'd probably look at you like you're a fucking weirdo. But then again, aren't we all fucking weirdos now? But yeah, it surprisingly is not a bad film in my opinion, and I definitely would like to check out some of his other works in the future when it comes to mangas. Yeah, I really need to get more into reading shit.